We all know Tanjiro Kamado, the kind-hearted hero, and his awesome dad, Tanjiro. But what if we took a massive swing with the Nichirin Blade of what if? Imagine the strongest Hashira, the gentle giant Gyomei Himejima, trading his prayer beads for paternity. Would Tanjiro be unbeatable? I've come up with 3 theories on how the series could have played out differently, so put on your creative hats and let's dive right in. Now for our first theory, let's bring Tanjiro into Gyomei's world. Well, imagine that Tanjiro doesn't have the zeal to join the Demon Slayer Corps. He would stay home as a noble worker in a small town with his dad, and his sister who would most likely be traumatized by Kagaku's brutal massacre. Gyomei would obviously want to join the Demon Slayer Corps to avenge the children, and to prevent such horrors from happening to someone else, just like his motives in the original timeline. However, in this reality, Tanjiro and Nezuko would become a setback for Gyomei, as he cannot venture into the life of the Demon Slayer and leave his children behind. Instead of fighting for vengeance, he would strive to present them with his peaceful lifestyle. Now that we understand their lifestyle in this timeline, we can establish the fact that Gyomei, Nezuko, and Tanjiro are completely eliminated from the Demon Slayer Corps, and have no business with their activities. This would be a heavy downgrade in the Slayer's power level. Their efficiency in various battles would reduce drastically, because 2 or maybe even 3 of their hardest hitters aren't in their ranks. Tracing way back from Mount Naragumo, with Tanjiro absent, it was possible that Zenitsu and Inosuke would have gotten killed in that arc, but their survival was possible because they were saved by the Hashira. Tanjiro contributed to their survival. Let's say they survived with severe and permanent injuries, which could greatly reduce their efficiency as well. Through the Swordsmith Village arc, we might still have turned out the same with enough reinforcements and fighting power. It's possible that one of the Slayers ended up dying. It would all lead to the Infinity Castle arc, and remember, Tanjiro isn't around, so Tameo's job couldn't have been completed, leaving the attack on Muzan to be weaker. They would eventually land in the castle, with a slim chance of defeating Muzan, as all their higher pieces are dead. The Upper Moons would clean up the place, killing every Slayer in sight. Though 1 or 2 of them may die, it wouldn't matter, as the whole of the Slayers and their capabilities would be wiped out beneath the Demon King's feet. The Demon Slayer Corps and all that's left of it is gone, and there's no hope for humanity. As Tanjiro and his father Gyomei laugh and try to put their past away, a great darkness lurks in the world now. With no chance of survival, a dark force that could have been stopped in another universe. Well, that was dark, but it's only one of our theories, so stay tuned to see just what we have in store. Now let's bring Gyomei into Tanjiro's world. Let's say Gyomei was with Tanjiro's family when they were attacked by Muzan. Gyomei couldn't have died at that moment. Let's say he was strong enough to survive and get away from Muzan, with Muzan thinking he was dead. Gyomei would have been consumed with guilt of abandoning his family. The screams and memory wouldn't be orphans, but his children. This would be his cue to become a Demon Slayer and take his rightful place as the Stone Hashira. Let's not forget, Gyomei's impact wouldn't affect Tanjiro. The story would play out the same, and he would find his sister, learn water breathing, and join the Demon Slayer Corps. We would be looking at a weaker form of Tanjiro, as he wouldn't be able to manifest sun breathing. Keep in mind that Gyomei doesn't know the Hinokami Kagura, and we can assume that Tanjiro and Nezuko were saved by her blood demon art against Rui at Mount Naragumo. Things would then take an absolute turn after Mount Naragumo. As we know, Tanjiro and the others were immediately brought in from the mountain, and were questioned about Nezuko. Now things would play out how we remember it, but the second Gyomei hears their names, it would turn into an emotional train wreck. The Kamado siblings would be sucked in as well, and embrace him back, which would turn out to be a massive reunion for the pack. Ubuyashiki would suggest the family live together so that they would get along. They would be relieved and motivated to avenge their family, and take down the Demon King with all they have. Nothing much would change except that the Kamado siblings would now be fighting to see their father again. This version of Gyomei would be way more lighthearted, and some of Tanjiro's traits would rub off on him. Coming down to the final arc in the Infinity Castle, the Kamado family wouldn't just be fighting for vengeance, but they would fight as hard as they can with the hopes to reunite and take down Muzan together. And in the final showdown, the fight against Muzan would be an end to a conquest towards an unforgivable tyrant. Then we would get to see what would probably be the greatest father-son duo ever in anime. Tanjiro would be able to manifest some stone-breathing abilities, as he would have been trained beforehand on some basic techniques, and they would fight with all they have, utilizing their Demon Slayer marks in the process. After an emotional and climactic battle, the Demon Slayer Corps would come out triumphant, roasting the Demon King to a crisp. But then Tanjiro suddenly emerges as a demon. Confused, Gyomei, Nezuko, Zenitsu, and Inosuke all try to comfort Tanjiro and give him the support he needs to bury the Demon King for good. Tanjiro would lash out at them at first, but he would heal to the warm embrace of his sister. He would shed tears and break out of the mental hold that Muzan placed on him. Even after the death of so many, the Kamado family would stand triumphant, and would live happily, knowing that they've laid the souls of their once complete family to rest as well. Talk about a pure and emotional ending. We're down to our last theory, and this one gets more intense, so sit tight and let's enjoy the last ride together. Okay, for our last theory, let's spice things up a bit. Let's bring the Kamado siblings back to Gyomei's world. Remember when Kaigaku attacked? There was a confused and scared girl that pointed out Gyomei as the killer. Now let's imagine that the little child was Tanjiro. Now take in mind, Tanjiro isn't an orphan. He's Gyomei's own son. Would it still lead Gyomei to take the normal path that we all know and become a demon slayer? And what's next for the Kamado siblings? Well, let's make things a little crazier and say that Tanjiro was adopted by Jigoro Kuwajima, the same man that would train Zenitsu later on. Now keep in mind that Tanjiro doesn't want to cure his sister or do anything for her. He only desires comfort and guidance from his past. We can assume that Tanjiro began to learn thunder breathing from the old man when he was very young. Kuwajima would realize that Tanjiro has more potential than the average trainee. Now, we all know that Zenitsu can't master forms 2 to 6 of thunder breathing. Tanjiro would be the only one of Kuwajima's students to master each form perfectly. Everything goes well until the fateful day when Tanjiro encounters Kaigaku. Tanjiro would instantly get a reminder of who he is, the same man that killed the people close to the siblings in his life. Tanjiro would charge at him instantly with a fatal attack, and Kaigaku would counter, drawing out his own blade. After what seems to be the most engaging student conflict, just before Tanjiro can land the final attack on Kaigaku, they are instantly stopped by Kuwajima, who is called by a terrified Zenitsu. This would drive Kaigaku mad, being unable to believe he could lose to a weakling, and this would probably push him to take the path of a demon. Now back to Tanjiro, we can assume that Kuwajima recommends Tanjiro and Zenitsu to take on the final selection, which they pass and become an insanely powerful duo. Now, we also have to take in mind that this version of Tanjiro is way stronger than the one we all know, as he's fully mastered thunder breathing, and he also possesses the inhumane strength of Gyomei. Now, we can say that everything goes on just like we know, but then Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke head over to the mansion to deliver a message and meet Gyomei there. Since Gyomei can't see Tanjiro, he would recognize his voice and presence immediately, and father and son would come together to embrace after a long time. Gyomei would be filled with immense joy, as his only son has just returned to him. In this reality, their bond would be way stronger, and their traits would change their thoughts bit by bit. In the Infinity Castle, though, let's match Zenitsu and Tanjiro against Kaigaku. This fight would play out dramatically, as the two are in complete rage at Kaigaku. Of course, Kaigaku loses and they finally avenge the death of Kuwajima. They then find themselves face to face with the Demon King. This version of Tanjiro is way stronger, pairing with Zenitsu more vigorously, but Muzan would be as well, as Tamayo's drug couldn't have been completed, so Muzan would still be at full strength. At this point, the Slayers would give it their all, and after many lives are lost, they come out victorious. Tanjiro looks around to see Gyomei heavily with tears running down his face. He would be the one to confront Gyomei in his final moments, and his father, who he reunited with not long ago, would be the same person to die in his hands. And Gyomei would comfort him, telling him that his death is for the greater good, as Tanjiro would put him to peaceful rest and carry on his legacy as long as he lives. And there you have it, 3 theories on the possibility of Gyomei being Tanjiro's father and Demon Slayer. Seems to me like all 3 theories carry very sad or emotional endings. Thoughts on alternative ways for the story to play out, or maybe you think I could have added some kind of detail to any of the theories here? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, you'll love the next super cool video coming up on your screen. Go ahead, click on it.